So the first thing we're going to do is to scaffold an Adonis application using the CLI tool. We want a web application named blog and we want ESLint. Great, now we can see into the blog, open our editor and also run the first build. So the first thing we're going to do is to install the Lucid package. Then we can scaffold the configuration. Since I'm using a Postgres database, I need to do a few changes through the env file. So here I need to use Postgres, user is root, password is root2, and the DB name is blog. Last thing, I need to install the driver. Great, now we can check if the website is working. So first, let's run in another terminal the node-ace serve command with watch. And if we check on the browser, we can see that it worked. Now, get back to the editor and let's scaffold the post resources. So we're going to use node-ace for that, and there is view helper through the make command. So we're going to make a controller called post. We're also going to make a migration with the same name. Let's edit the migration. Migrations are a way to define the schema of our table. So here we have a table named post and we want a string for the title. We also want a text field for the content. So let's use node-ace migration run. And if we take a look to the database and refresh, we can see that we have a post table. Great. So the last thing we need to do is to create a module. So we're going to use node-ace make module for that. But as you see, there's an issue here. It created the module on the wrong folder. So let's move this here. Good. So a module is a way to bind the database table to your code. Here you can see that we have few fields, ID, created that, updated that, and we miss the two we added earlier. So let's use the colon decorator, and we want the public title, which is string, and also the public content, which is string, and it's a colon 2. So let's see our view now. If we go to the welcome here, we can see that it's basically what we have on the browser. So let's delete kinda everything. So all of this, and we're going also to delete the style tag here. And we don't need this. Great. So here we're going to use Edge, which is the template engine of Adonis. First, we're going to define an empty section called page. The syntax let us fulfill the section using a child view. So we're going to rename this welcome view to app. And we're going to simply create a folder called post, and inside it create an index.h. If we open the root file, you can see that we are rendering the welcome view directly. So let's see what we do if we render the index view instead. And also let's add an hello world here. Good. So it worked here, and we can also say layout and put app here. So it will use the layout app, which is this file. So if we refresh, we can see that there is nothing because we forgot to add this section here. So we're going to fulfill the section page that we defined earlier on the template. And it worked. Great. So let's go to our controller and start doing the index file. So we have a public function here, which is in sync and index. As the first parameter, we receive the context, so we can uncomment this, put curly braces here, and type it. In this context, we have a lot of things. We'll need the view here for this example. So the view can render something, and we'll render post index, and we'll return that. Now on the root file, I can say that the root on get slash, which is root, I want to go to the post controller and the index method. So if we remove this line, it should work the same. And it does. So we're going to add a few things here. First, we need to use our post model, and we need to create all posts. So we're going to await that, put it on the variables called posts, and send it back to the view. Now on this view, I can simply remove that and do something like each post in posts. And remember, posts is something we send from the controller, and we can end the each here. So inside this, I want a little article tag, something h2 with the post title. And what about a link to show it? Or maybe the title could be a link. Let's do this. So let's put the A tag here. The content of the A tag will be the title. And here for the link, we're going to use a root helper. So I can put here the controller name. So it will be post controller.show. And we need also a few things here. So I'm going to add the params, which will be ID and post ID. And I believe that's it. Great. So now we need to add the show method on the post controller, but we also need to define the endpoint. So let's go to the roots file here, and let's define root get post / ID, and this will go to the show method. Now if we refresh, we still got nothing because we haven't created any articles. So let's go to our layout here and let's add a few things. So we want a home link, and we also want something to create the posts. So it could be root helper again, post controller, and we want to go to create method. Great, we need nothing else. And here will be create post, something like that. And as we see, we have an error because post controller create isn't existing yet. So let's go to our post controller here and let's add it. Public in sync, or maybe it's not needed yet. Create, and here we got the context, and we want the view again. And we're simply going to return the view called post create. It doesn't exist yet, so let's create it here. Create.edge. And first thing, we are going to extend our layout and fulfill the section page. Now we're going to have a basic form, so we're going to post on root helper again, and this time it will be post controller.store, and the method of the formula will be post. Good. So let's create it one label for the title, will be title, and an input with that. So the name will be title too. And we're also going to create another label called content for the content. And it will be a text area called content. Last thing we need is the button. So it will be a submit button, and we call it save or create maybe. Create. So now we need to define the root. So let's go here, root.get, and will be post / create. And this will go to post controller.create. Let's refresh. And now let's go to the create post view. And as you see, it's telling me that the post controller store doesn't exist yet on the root file. So we're following a pattern. We are creating a resource called post, and we are creating routes to create, delete, update, and view the resource. That's called CRUD. And Adonis offers you a great helper for that called resource. So I can simply define the resource called post to the post controller. And if we show the route for a terminal here, using node ace list routes, you can see that it created for me all the routes I need with the name and the handler correctly. So I don't need to create all of them by hand. So now if we refresh the page, it should work, and it does. So we have the home, right, display all the posts, and we can create a new post. But if we create it, it does nothing because we don't have the store method on the controller. So let's go to the controller and add that. So it will be a public in-sync method called store. And we will need the request and the response from here. And it will be typed as context. So now we need to receive a few things from the request, but we need to validate those. So we're going to create a validator. To do that, using the AdonisJS make validator command, and we can create the post one. And here we can create the schema of our request. So we're going to have a title that will be a string, and also the content, and it will be also a string. So if we go back to the controller, we can say const data equals await, and here we can use the validator through the request validate, and here we can use the post validator that is imported here automatically. Great, so this will validate the request and send back only validated fields. Otherwise, it can fail. So this is great. Now we can simply call post, which is our model, .create with the data. And we're going to await that. And if we return a response, redirect, and we're going to redirect to the root. So with these 3 lines of code, it should validate our requests, save it to the database, and redirect us to the root. Let's go back and let's add my first post. Hello world. And let's create it. We created our first post. Let's have a look. And whoops, we don't have the show method. So let's add it. Public in sync show. Here we need the params and the view. So the first thing, we need to fetch the post. So let's use post, and we have something called find or fail. And we're going to use the param ID. This is coming through the routes file. If you have a look here, we see that there's something like with semicolon ID, which is the parameter. So I'm using it with the params here. I'm going to await that and save it to the post variable. Then we're going to render a view, which would be post show with the post. And that's it. So let's add the view here. And first thing first, we're going to extend the layout, and as always, the section page. Now what I want is a H1 with the post title, and also a P tag with the content. And what about a few comments? So let's put an HR, and then here H2 comments. But we need to define those, right? So let's see first what it looks like, and it's great. So how we're going to add comments? First, we need to create a model. So let's use AdonisJS make model comment. We're going to move it since there's an issue here. So app models and comment, move it here. Great. Then we need a migration. So AdonisJS make migration will be comments. Good. And let's go here. So our comments table, we have 2 fields. The first one will be the message, which would be a string. The other one would be the integer for the relationship. So it would be called post underscore ID. It will be unsigned. It will also reference the ID in the table post. And we want to delete on cascade, which means if the post is deleted, the comment is deleted too. Great, so let's run our migration. And we're good to go. On the comment model, I need to define those fields. So colon, it will be a public message in a string. Then we have another colon, which will be the foreign key called post ID. It's a number. And to define the relationship, we need to go to the post model. So to define the relationship, we need first to define its type. Here, a post has many comments, and the comments belongs to a post. So we need to use the has many helper here. The has many decorator takes an argument, which is an empty function, but send back the type of the relation, which is comment. Then we need to define the field, which will be comments, and it will be of type has many comment. So let's import this. Import comment from app models and comment. So let's have a look back at this. We defined a field on our model called comments. It's of type has many comment with the decorator has many. So this tells Adonis that we have a relationship of type has many that send back comment. We're going to use it on our comment controller. So let's create it with node ace make controller comment. Also going to define a new route here. So the route will be resource and it will be a command for a post. So post.comments, it's a nested resource, and it will go to the comments controller. In this controller, we're going first to increment that, and we're going to have one simple function called store. It will use params, requests, and response. So if we have a look back at our route, we see here that it created post slash something slash comments slash ID slash whatever. So this is the post ID and this will be the comment ID. Since we are going to post a new comment, we need to use this route. So here, first I'm going to retrieve the post using this find or fail method with the params called post ID. Remember, it's what we have here, post ID. And we're going to store it on a variable. So once it's done, we need to validate our request. So let's create a validator, node ace make validator comment. And as we saw, our comment only have one field, which is message, and it will be a string. So let's use const data await request validate and our comment validator. Good. So once we have the post and the data is validated, we can store it. We can store a relationship through the parent of it. So we're going to do post dot related comment, and for here we can say create with the data, and we can await that. So here we're going to create a comment through the post with this data, and it will autofill the foreign key for us. Once it's done, we can response redirect back, and it will redirect us back to the post. So let's go to the show view again. And now let's add a little formula here. It will be through the root helper, going to comments, controller, dash tool. And we need to give a few params here. So we need to give the post ID. So params, post ID, it's post.id. And I believe we're good. This will use the post. And here we have a small field with a label, it will be a message, the input of name message, and a button, send. We will also list the comments, but how to do so? So we're going to the post controller, and here on the show method, we are not only going to fetch the post, but also all the related comments. So to do that, we can use the query builder and use the preload method to preload all comments. We're also going to add a condition here to fetch only the post with the ID that we received from root. And we're going to take the first, all fail. So if we go back to our root here, we can add another loop. So let's use each comment in past comments. And this will loop through each comment of this poach, and it's with a D. li, and we want comment dot message. If we go back here and we refresh, we can add a message. So let's say my first comment, and we click send. And as you see, we have our comment here. So if we have a look to the database and refresh, you can see that we have the comments table with one comment linking to post 1. And if we click here, we can see the first post. Let's go back to the code. One last thing we need to do is to be able to edit the post. So let's add a link here that will go to post controller dot edit, and it will take the post ID as parameter. So ID, post ID, and it will be called edit. And remember, all of this is because our roots take parameters. So let's go to our post controllers and let's create a new function called edit, and which will be in sync. And this one take the params and the view. So first thing, we're going to fetch the post. So const post equal await post dot find params ID. Then we're going to render the view. That will be called post dot edit. We're going to send the post. Great. So let's copy paste the create view and let's add it here to the edit.h. Save it, and here we're going to set the value to post title, and text area will be post.content. We also need to change the action here. So we're going to use the update action that will require a params, which is the ID of post ID. And we need to add method spoofing here. So it will be method.put. Great. We also need to change the configuration. So config app, and we need to activate method spoofing here. It's deactivated by default for security. So if we close all of those and go back here, we can click on edit, and we see that we can edit our post. So if we change hello world to hello world 2 and click create, it gives us an error because update isn't defined on post controller. So let's do this. Post controllers, and here we're going to add public sync update. So we'll need the params and response the request. So the first thing, we need to find the post. So let's use this method again. Then we need to validate our field. So we already did that here. Okay, last thing, we need to use merge. That will merge what we already have with the data sent. And we can simply call save on it, and it will save it. And we can return a response redirect. And we will redirect by putting by hand the URL to the post with the post ID here. Great, so let's see if it worked. E5, yes. And here we go, hello world 2. So let's create a new post. This is my second post of content. That's so cool. Where's my second post? I can add a comment. Haters, good, love. Nice. Let's edit it. That's let's add more O here and create, and it has been updated. So this was a quick introduction to AdonisJS.